I believe that people who tend to be pick-me's or people pleasers, or generally just are in relationships that are very disrespectful to them, are people who are suffering from some sort of trauma or their past, which has really brought them to who they are right now. Now, with that in mind, I believe that in choosing people, we must choose people who choose us. And with that, you don't just choose out of the blue. Okay, you have to determine people's characters, people's behaviors, how they carry themselves, and based on that, how they make you feel. That's how you determine if someone is the right fit for you, right? Now, before we get into today's topic, I want us to discuss as reasons as to why we may accept mistreatment, okay? It could be many reasons, not just from being a people pleaser or a pick me, okay? First, it could be you grew up witnessing mistreatment, right, from your parents. They did not model a healthy reunion. You do not see a healthy relationship, how it looks like, okay? And even around us, we see our relatives, our friends settling into things that barely meets their needs, okay, just because they're afraid to be alone or they're afraid to just do it on their own, or because, they're just okay settling for whatever that comes their way, all right? Another reason why we accept mistreatment is because we do not love ourselves fully. Okay, when you do not love yourself, someone else loving you is enough. It could be the love could be crap, it could be a smidget of care, but because it's something and because you do not treat yourself well enough, it's enough for you. Okay. So another reason, which is kind of taboo, is because you have a timeline. Okay, you have a timeline to to be married, to have kids, and so you accept to settle down with Mr. 5 years, whilst you are the placeholder now. You accept the shut up ring, and it's okay, it's good. It's better the thing it's better the thing that you're used to, rather than just to crash it and start over because you're scared of starting over. You don't want to do it again. You want to meet society's expectations or timelines that you created in your mind. And let me tell you, ladies, is the worst thing you can do to yourself, okay? And another reason, it could be you are afraid to be alone. You're scared to be alone. You've always been a serial dater. It's scary to be alone. You're scared of loneliness. You don't know how to be alone, and it's just too much for you. You need people around you. You need to that warmth of other people so that you can feel whole. You've never been alone, so being alone is so scary for you. And guys, this is just dreadful for you. Now, these are all the reasons why we accept mistreatment, and today we are going to discuss this and how we are going to grow and heal from this, okay? So let's get to it. Now, before I get into my points, I want to simplify why you need to heal and to fix your brain, and you need to fix your mind from being in these kinds of relationship that you are mistreated. Okay, you need to be in a place where you are falling in love with yourself, you are healthy yourself. Okay, and you need to understand that being in this kind of relationship, they skew your mind. And for you to get to the next step or to the next level, you need to have work done on yourself. Now, do people fall for relationships? Do people get into relationships when they are broken? Yes, but more often than not, healthy attracts healthy. You cannot attract from a place of toxicity. You cannot be toxic yourself and expect something good to happen for you. Things like relationship and love, I think that should just flow. I understand that forcing such things, perpetuating your life and forcing things like that, forcing people, love, connections to fall for you, to work for you, is a dangerous game. You need to be in a place of self love and self worth so that you can make clear decision and right decision as to what is attractive to you, as to what you need to be in, or things that you need to attract in your life. Okay, so let's get straight to the points now. Now, my first point is you need to stop letting people trick you into settling. Okay, other people's lives are none of your business. So why are we trying to emulate their decisions and their values if we do not consider them to be a valuable person, especially if you're not trying to date them or be with them, or you're not looking up to them as pertaining as to how they how they drive their life? why would you let them come in and start to push their fears on you? You need to understand that to people, the concept of self love and putting yourself first comes off foreign, and they think it's selfish, okay? And they push you into doing things quickly, as in they want you to do things quickly and make it feel like that if you do not approach the thing or if you do not take the step, you'll miss the boat. And once you miss the boat, that's it. You need to understand that those perceptions, they stem out of fear, and you cannot allow people to push their fear onto you, okay? I want you to look at the people you look up to, people who are successful, people who you admire their independence, their success, how their marriage. If you look clearly, you'll see that they took the path that was least traveled. And it looked odd to the people who are around them. It did not look like the the norm, the cultural society standards and how people do things. In that time, in that moment, it looked odd. And that's how they got to the place where they are at now. You have to understand that they did not force things. They decentered their lives, from men and forcing things into working out the way they need them to work. Okay, you have to understand that misery loves company. And a lot of people, they settled and they're miserable in where they are, and they need that company. They need to to also see it in you, so that you do not reflect. You having better, you choosing better, you waiting for better, and even anticipating for better, it's a reflection to them, to show them the light. It's a light, it's like a mirror showing to them that they settled, they chose something that was there, whilst they could just done the work and wait and get something better, okay? I think you need to consider a source or a mentor who actually took the path and really made their decision. And you have to choose a mentor from someone. Or usually, I look at if someone is happy with their decision, if they're happy with their relationship, if they're happy with their jobs. That's who I choose as a mentor. Okay, you need to consider those things so that you can get a solid advice. You can get a clear advice as to how they got to where they are, and they can give you a picture perfect or a mirror as to where you are, so that and the step that you should take to get to the place that you want to be, okay? So you have to understand that men and women will trick you, okay? It's not necessarily women, even men, they will trick you. And you have to not take it personally, but you have to understand that they're giving advice, or what they're throwing at you is per what they have gone or what they have achieved or how far they have come with their lives, okay? You do not take it personally. So you look for a mentor who reflects the kind of happiness, the success, the marriage, and the relationships that you are looking up to. And that is where you draw your advice from, okay? Now, to my next point. Now, the next point I want to touch on is solitude makes you find yourself deeper, okay? You nurture yourself differently when you are single. It's not to say that relationships do not nurture you. You can absolutely grow in a relationship, okay? It's just that only happens if you are smart in your choices, and depends totally with who you are with, okay? Some relationship are reciprocal and some are just not, which is most, okay? It's just that when you're in a relationship, you find yourself putting more effort into nurturing the relationship, into nurturing the other person, and you find yourself putting yourself in the back seat. So not a lot of growth is happening on your end, okay? Because all your energy and attention is going into the relationship, okay? Being alone kind of forces you into doing things that you will never have the guts to do. You never had the guts to face, okay? It makes you grow. You do not want to go through this phase later in life when you're already in something serious, or you're already a parent, you're already in a marriage, and then you start being considered as rebellious whilst you're just trying to find yourself. I prefer you go through this when you're still young, when you still don't have a lot of burdens, especially to people who are never alone. You are a serial dater, you have never been through an extensive single season. Trust me, you need to take that leap. You need to give yourself that opportunity and be single for a while. Your looks will level up, you will look better inside out. You just level up inside and out, okay? Because you have more time to point to yourself, you're also finding yourself, you're also getting to know yourself deeper, okay? And even as you attempt these new things that you never have tried, While when you have been settling in some relationship, you get the chance to do them, and you get to see yourself grow in ways that you could not have the space and the chance to grow when you're into something. Okay, this goes for people who are serial daters. You need to give yourself, stop running from yourself. You need to sit and just face your solitude. It's not a bad thing. The best thing you can do to yourself is solitude. That way you know who you are, and the decisions you will make from that solitude season will be different because you'll have leveled up. You know who you are, so you'll not settle and you'll not be scared. You'll not be making decision out of fear of being alone. You'll not be scared of loneliness. Okay. Now the next point is going to wrap people off some way. Okay. Now, what I mean to say is your timeline is stupid. Your timeline is stupid. Now, listen to me. You can look at the divorce rates online. You can just check the stats. It says a lot, okay? And most of these divorces, because people have some weird timeline on their head, some societal pressure is pushing them to be somewhere at some age, because you see, because it's just normalized, it means that is the rule, not the exception for everyone, you know. I I'm saying this not from a place where like this girl wants to make people single, wants to keep people single. No, 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 no. By all means, you have to do whatever you need to do. And I'm not ruling out the people who got married young and it worked out for them. But let's be honest. Most don't work out, okay? And you are afraid to end that relationship because you're scared of starting over. You're going to start over at some point. Sooner or later you'll have to start over, divorced with kids. I mean, and that is the reason why most women, they settle into these long dragged out relationships with Mr. 5 years, because you end up marrying your high school sweetheart because you don't want to start all over again, and then you settle for that sweetheart of yours who doesn't like you, who you have to share bills with because now you have kids in the picture, and all he can give you is some shut up ring so that you stop pestering him, because time is going for you and your clocks, biological clocks, and whatever. you know Let me say, it's important that you prioritize your self development first. Get to know yourself first. And you can argue with me that, okay, Michelle, you can wait until 35 and end up being divorced 10 years later. True. But at least in my waiting season, in my preparation season, at least I chose something that was beneficial for me. It is better to be divorced from someone who I can get early money and child support with, rather than staying in some bare minimum relationship full of crap where I'm miserable, where I have to share bills with someone who does not even like me, someone who is cheating on me left, right, and center. I mean, come on. It is better, at least I'll be divorced with something from, and eating from and receiving from a better decision that I made, than rather than settling for something that even me myself, I was checked out, but because time was going, I needed something, and starting over seemed scary. Now I have to start over from nothing. I apana. I'd rather you just take your time and do not absorb the society rules. Everyone's timeline is different. I'd rather you take your chance, go through your solitude phase, learn what you really want to learn. And love is not everything. We have seen that time and time again. At this point, love is not everything. It's just like a seasoning to life. Okay. Wait, grow, mature, let your frontal lobe grow so that you can make the better decisions, sober decisions, okay? And even if those decisions come to an end or they don't work out, you have already built a back for yourself. You're already self-developed to a place where things like being alone, they do not affect you that much. You will not crumble. You have your own empire that you have been building for some time, okay? And you got to choose someone who is beneficial to you. Some people, it's better you divorce a caliber of person where you'll get some early money, other than these riffraffs who are just out here roaming, and come with a lot of BS. Anyway, I'm rambling. Just ditch those timelines. Decenter your age, decenter the society, decenter your parents. Decenter those societal norms. Let your path be your own path. Take your time and choose yourself and grow. Stop listening to podcast pros who are out here just pushing. No, 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 no. You have to understand that men have double standards. If you listen to them, if you listen to the society, you will, my friend, you will wreck yourself, okay? Now, my next point, which kind of ties in to my last point, okay? You need to decenter yourself from obsessiveness. The obsessiveness to have the perfect lifestyle, to have the perfect man. Let me tell you, you cannot get to have these things if you do not do your work. You do not do the work on yourself. And doing the work on yourself requires a level of focus. And you cannot have the focus if you're constantly obsessing over these things. You put a lot of attention on the obsessiveness to the point that the things that you really need to work on, they don't get the focus on. You cannot attract the money if your body is not right, if your mind is not right. You cannot live a certain lifestyle if you cannot even comprehend and even manage that lifestyle. Your money has to be on a certain level, your body has to be on a certain level, your mindset has to be, a whole game. You have to be ball to be able to attract such things, okay? You cannot be toxic and expect to have good things just because you want them. Okay. Again, healthy attracts healthy. You cannot be on a different frequency and expect to have things from another frequency. You have to work to match to that level, okay? And that does not come by just wanting and closing your eyes and forcing things into happening. No, you have to do the work, and doing the work means focusing on the right things. Focus on how your body, are you healthy? Are you money literate enough to able to sustain that kind of lifestyle, or you just be popping up on social media showing money, not being aware that KRA is looking at you? You don't know anything about taxes, you have no franchise of yourself, you don't know, you have not perfected on your skills, your talents, and your gifts, but you expect to live certain lifestyle, you expect to attract certain kind of men. Let me tell you, value attracts value. And even those high value men, how will you meet them if you cannot even afford a meal at the places where they hang out? You need to have something of yourself. You need to have something tangible, and that requires focus. And you cannot have focus by obsessing over things, okay? Decenter that obsession, decenter anything that is taking away focus from the value that you have to be creating for yourself, okay? You need to be standing, you need to prioritize your growth. You need to prioritize your level up, the level up of your gifts, your skills. Those are things, those are intangibles that someone cannot take away from you, okay? Now, if you obsess over a man and then you get him and then he just treats you like a mistress because you're not even worth keeping, you cannot even hold a conversation at dinner. All you know to do is make up and looking like someone who came for the money. Anyway, not to put anyone down, but I just need you people to have your priorities right, okay? Have your priorities checked. Now, let's look at the dangers of ignoring mistreatment, okay? A lot of times in the society, we see women go through a lot of abuse in the hands of men, especially emotional, physical, and even financial abuse. Let me tell you, financial abuse is real. Being stay at home anything is a detriment to women. I feel like it's a prison that is nicely, it's like a cage that is beautifully made, beautifully advertised, but once you step in, it's real. Now, not only wealthy men can financially abuse you, even broke men, they do this because, especially broke men, because they need to feel that ego boost, they need to feel like a man. They're already angry in themselves, and you need to understand that angry people are people who hate themselves. They already have a void, they have a lack within themselves, and that drives them into hurting other people, right? Such people, these kinds of people, they are really emotionally abusive, and you do not want to be in that position where, for example, maybe you're married to a wealthy man and then all of a sudden he pops up with a mistress, and here you are, he forced you into being a stay-at-home mom, you have nothing to your name, and then he decides to take everything away from you. You cannot even afford a lawyer to fight for you at court for alimony, you're just a waste, you're a shell, and then you become a shell of yourselves, you know. It is important that we value ourselves enough and we make decisions that reflect that reflect the respect and the value that we have for yourself, okay? You want to choose someone because a life with them is a better life, not because it looks good, not because it is the picture perfect of what you have in your mind. You have to be logical about some things, especially when it comes to your survival, okay? Preservation is a survival mechanism. You do not forget that as a woman. And you have to understand that we are prey to this other gender. So you cannot just be woo woo delusional when it comes to big life decisions like marriage. Choose choose from a place of soberness who you bring into your life, you know, and you should put your self-love journey and your growth journey of most importance when it comes to these matters. You do not want to put yourself in a situation where it is detrimental to your survival, okay? So I think that's all I have for this video. I will see you on the next one, right?